The Renault Laguna Coupe might not be the sportiest of sports coupes, but if it's refinement, build quality, safety and practicality you're after, it's one of the very best. The car looks the part too, which in this style-conscious area of the market is more than half the battle. Once upon a time, most of the major makers had a reasonably affordable four-seater coupe on their books. But in the 90s, sales dwindled and the sector was abandoned to the German prestige marques, who bought us cars like BMW 3 Series, Mercedes CLK, and in more recent years, Audi's A5. Amongst the more affordable brands, only Peugeot persevered with their 406 and 407 coupes. But in more recent times, Volkswagen Scirocco has breathed new life into this part of the market. And that's something that Renault hopes to capitalise on with this Laguna Coupe. Now, when the French maker first leaked some early concept shots of this model, it looked nothing less than stunning. But the final production version has been watered down a little. Having been away from this sector since the 1980 Fuego Coupe, and having had their fingers burnt by a number of more recent cutting-edge designs that quite frankly didn't work, Renault have understandably pursued a more cautious approach with this car. The high-tech highlight of this car is 4Control. That's Renault's way of describing four-wheel steering. Now, it's only available on pricier GT variants, but it really is worth having. It's the unique selling point of this car. How does it work? Well, at low speeds, say under 37 miles an hour, to aid low-speed manoeuvrability, the rear wheels turn a few degrees in the opposite direction to those at the front. Go over 37 miles an hour, and in a subtle change the rear wheels switch to turning a few degrees in the same direction as those at the front to get the nose in during high-speed cornering. Now, this makes up for what would otherwise be a slightly vague sense of steering feel, and thanks to a super quick steering rack, it means that roundabouts can be dispatched with a mere flick of the wrists. The suspension is carried over from the normal Laguna hatch, but is based on the firmer setup you get in the sporty GT model. Now, as there, it creates in the Laguna Coupe a result that's more sporting grand tourer than out-and-out sports car. Though the sharp steering and impressive body control can reward enthusiasts on a twisting secondary road, they'll feel happier cruising down to Cannes. The wind noise and engine noise are extremely well suppressed, making this a great car to cover big distances in. Go for the flagship 3-litre V6 235 DCI diesel model and got pretty much the perfect car for the across-continental trip. Now, Renault and partners Nissan developed this engine with their Lexus-style Infinity luxury brand in mind, and as a result it's probably the quietest diesel that it's possible to buy, yet with 60 just 8 seconds away from rest and 40 miles to the gallon on tap. Mind you, you can achieve pretty much those results in the 4-cylinder 2-litre DCI diesel 180 engine that I'm driving here, although you'd have to do without the V6's glorious 450 Newton meters of torque to waft you around the countryside. Now, even if you don't like the looks of the standard Laguna hatch, give the car another chance in this form. Trendy four-door coupes are all very well, but there's something about the sweeping, falling roofline of a classic two-door design that you just can't improve upon. At the back, there's even a hint of Aston Martin about the way that the LED rear lamps curve around the rear corners of the car, and the boot lid lifts to form a narrow lip spoiler. Now, inside, the impressive interior of the Laguna hatch is carried over with quality soft touch materials and a neat control layout. Now, once upon a time, a family car interior would have looked out of place in a sports coupe like this, but here it all gels beautifully. Given that this Laguna Coupe sits on a shorter wheelbase than its hatchback stablemate, you might be surprised to find just how much room there is in the back for two fully grown adults, even those rather taller in stature. Now, there's more luggage space, 423 litres, than you might expect as well. although the boot aperture is rather narrow, so getting really large items in might be a bit of a struggle. But once you've got them in, there's plenty of width, and you can increase the space available by flipping these catches either side of the boot compartment and dropping the 60/40 split rear seats down, thereby increasing the load length from 1 metre to 1.8 metres. To tie items down, you've also got these helpful loading eyes, and to keep valuable items away from prying eyes, you can either put them in one of two compartments, one here and another here. Now, prices range in the £22,000 to £28,000 bracket, about the same as you'd pay for a much older design like Peugeot's 407 Coupe. Volkswagen's avant-garde but broadly less powerful Scirocco Coupe initially looks a bit cheaper, but bear in mind that you only get around half as much luggage space and rear seat legroom as is offered in this Laguna Coupe, due to the fact that it's based on a Golf-sized hatch rather than a Laguna-sized family 5-door. Now, apart from that, you're looking at a premium of between £6,500 to £8,000 for an equivalently powerful BMW 3 Series or Audi A5. So, taking all this into account, the Renault stacks up pretty well, although it's a pity that you have to pay a £2,000 premium to get the 4-control steering that's only offered in GT trim. 2 petrol engines and a trio of diesels make up the Laguna Coupe engine range. At the foot of the lineup, there are a couple of 2-litre DCI diesels. I've got one here. You've either got 150 or 180 brake horsepower. This is the 180. There's also a V6 diesel with 235 brake horsepower to play with. If you're looking for a petrol unit, there's a 2-litre turbo 205 brake horsepower 4-cylinder unit, or a detuned version of the 3.5-litre V6 petrol engine that used to power Nissan's 350Z, and that puts out 240 brake horsepower. Now, standard equipment runs to 18-inch alloy wheels, an advanced Archimedes 3D sound system, automatic headlamps, automatic wipers, climate control and rear parking sensors. Safety kit, well, you get 8 airbags, ABS, ESP, CSV understeer control, ASR traction control, basically all the acronyms. So, no prizes for guessing which Laguna Coupe is costliest to run. The 3.5-litre V6 petrol returns 28 miles to the gallon on the combined fuel cycle and puts out 238 grams per kilometre of CO2. Now, that makes it a tough model to recommend when the V6 diesel is slightly faster, manages 192 grams per kilometre of CO2 and manages 39 miles to the gallon on the combined cycle at the pumps. It's also only 500 quid more expensive. Elsewhere in the range, the base diesel model produces a creditable 47 miles to the gallon on the combined cycle and puts out 157 grams per kilometre of CO2, while the 2-litre petrol turbo manages 34 miles to the gallon on the combined cycle and 194 grams per kilometre of CO2. Now, on the used market, this Renault's high quality build will play well, but the lack of a prestige badge will inevitably count against it. Insurance groups, well, they range between 14 and 18. Relatively affordable 4-seater coupes simply aren't that affordable when they come with a German prestige brand attached. Now, if you want a car in this sector but aren't prepared to pay that much extra for a badge, then this Laguna Coupe stacks up pretty well. It's a more relaxed, mature offering than its close rival Volkswagen Scirocco, though models equipped with the 4-wheel steering system are surprisingly adept at B-road heroics should you need them to be. Best though to enjoy this Renault for what it is, a galette tourer par excellence, the kind of car the French used to make.